What is going on, guys? Jack here, and welcome to ForTheFans for the 26th of October. In today's show, we discuss the Sherwood sacking, we hear more about moaning Mourinho, and also we read some not so great reviews about last week's show. Let's get right into this.
Hello there, listeners. Welcome back to ForTheFans Show, episode 10, double figures, made the big time. Jack, Callum, how are we?
Not too bad.
Not too bad.
We said the same
Good.
thing.
Now, I don't want to bring the show down, boys, but on iTunes, we've had a review.
Dun dun dun. Wait, someone actually left one?
Yeah. ACW91 has titled the review, Total Amateur. Oh dear, it's not a good start. Love football podcasts, he writes. This doesn't count as one. An early dig. Are we unhappy with that?
I stopped
first
reading
remark?
at that point. I'm going to be honest, I was too hurt.
Okay. 20-something-year-olds without a clue. I assume you still at us. Kino, actually, are you 20-something?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Just
are
about.
you?
Just about.
He's
So you're not
19.
then?
He's
Okay.
underage.
4 minutes in, someone asked, who won Euro 2000? Really? What's the point in listening to people who know less than the average punter? Painful. 1 star. Boys. I mean, if he's not back, we already knew you. It's a shame, but I think we'll carry on regardless.
I mean, if he watches this one, then he's come back for something.
Yeah, if you're back again, maybe leave a second review, perhaps, saying how you've enjoyed your second experience. Anyway, I thought I'd show our football knowledge this week with another feature.
Excellent.
I should say, once again, boys, you don't know what the feature is, do you? I'll just keep it under wraps.
I have less of
We're
a
about
clue
to
than I did
dig
last time.
ourselves closer into a
True.
hole. So
Well, this week, boys, I've gone for more conventional feature. If you
So
can
it's
get my
another
drift
quiz.
there. Well, maybe. So there's 10 sets of questions. As in, well, there's 10 questions, 2 sets, obviously, one for each of you. No time limit, but obviously you've got to answer within a relatively quick time. It's just a simple shootout. Who gets the most out of the 10 questions I've got?
So it's 5 each.
No. 10 each.
10 each. Oh, blimey.
Yeah.
That's high
10
stakes.
between the two of us.
No. It's 10 questions. One of you will go first, then we'll do. Oh, sorry, to the guy that
Is
left
this
the
the
review, I'm
hardest
so sorry.
question, like understanding what's happening?
No. First person, 10 questions. Second person, 10 questions. Whoever got the most wins.
Can I go first?
It's a great feature, as you've requested to, Jack.
ACW91 is already writing his review. And he's
He
listened to
is.
the
He's
first.
right. He's at the second part. I've got 2.5 minutes in. They couldn't even organise a bloody feature.
Maybe I'll edit it and put it up to 2-star.
Doubt it. Okay, so Jack, they've got two sections. Do you want quiz 1 or feature 1 or feature 2?
I'll take quiz 2, please.
Okay, feature 2 it is.
Quiz.
I'd say time on the clock, but there's no time, Jack. But obviously, be reasonable. We've got this feature. This feature can't last forever, is what I'm getting at. Right. For which German club did Kevin Keegan play for?
Leverkusen.
Incorrect. The correct answer was Hamburg.
That's a
Which
curveball.
club did Sir Alex Ferguson call a small club with a small mentality in 2009?
Manchester
Oh.
City.
Correct. Point.
Boom.
How many Premier League titles have Arsenal won?
That's a weird question. Is it what?
It's not that weird a question. Oh, dearie me, he's going to be writing his review. The correct answer is 3. Is it 1? That's awful.
It's just I can't remember them.
Which famous team were originally known as Newton Heath?
Oh, Jack, come on.
Wait.
This is bad, isn't it, Callum?
This is bad. See, I don't know my footballing history that well. I feel like
Get off the podcast.
We're learning together. 5.
I'm leaving.
4,
I'm just your average
3,
punter.
2,
I'll guess and I'll say
1.
United, but I don't.
Correct answer is
It
Manchester
is United.
I thought can I just say something? I did actually think it was United, but I was then sat there thinking, is it someone else? Is it? And I'm going to feel absolutely terrible if I say
bit
United.
easier question. Which nationality is Martin Jol?
Dutch.
Correct. Bloody
There was a
hell.
worrying hesitation there.
Who is the English Premier League's all-time leading goal scorer?
Alan Shearer.
Correct. Who did Barcelona sell to Real Madrid for €60 million in 2000? The same year that France won the European or the Euros or whatever it was.
Is that actually significant at all?
No, but I just thought that the guy that left
So
the
what,
review
it was
might appreciate
Barcelona
that.
who sold this person to
Real Madrid, 5, 4.
I don't actually have a clue. I feel
Oh,
like this
Jack.
one would be obvious.
Kidno, the correct answer is
Luis Figo.
correct. Jack, no points. Callum, no points either. I'm sorry.
He's Portuguese.
Name
Cavani.
the manager. Name the manager of the Wales national team.
Chris Coleman.
Correct. Which country hosted the 1970 World Cup?
Uruguay.
Bloody hell, Mexico.
Are these
Who
all
did Miss McLaughlin
linked, Ben, or are they just random?
Who did Miss McLaughlin? No, it's random, just a random feature, Kino. Who did Miss McLaughlin marry in 2008?
Who?
Miss McLaughlin.
Mr. McLaughlin?
No, obviously
Oh,
not
my-
Jack, because she was getting married. Miss McLaughlin.
Oh, I don't have a clue.
Wayne Rooney.
See,
Bloody
if you'd said
hell.
Colleen and not given me the last name, I would have got it.
That's the point, isn't it? So you got 5.
I'll take that. I didn't get any of the historical ones. I'm sorry for that.
Bloody hell.
I was close on a
You
few.
didn't get any of the historical ones. Callum Keane, it's over to you.
Okay, I've got to do better.
Please save us from this nightmare.
I mean, he's the one who didn't know who the winner of Euro 2000 was. So.
Look,
I
he
was
young.
5.
I don't
Okay.
care. ACW,
Okay.
whatever his name is, does not care.
Time on the clock. How many World Cups have been won by Brazil?
5.
Correct. That's a history question, Jack, and you got it right. Who was the first? Who scored the first goal in the history of the Premier League?
Oh, that's difficult.
It's not. It's a common quiz question. I mean, feature thing.
Feature. Alan Shearer again? I don't know.
Incorrect. Brian Dean. There'll be people at home kicking themselves in the face. Which football team play at the KC Stadium?
Hull.
Correct. Which Scottish League football team are nicknamed the Gable Endies?
The what?
The Gable Endies, like that. You see it like
I'm
that.
not
the
sure.
Gable Endies.
I didn't know you were Scottish.
Montrose. Which colour sweatshirt did Brian Clough always wear to matches?
Red.
Green. Who is second in the all-time Premier League top goal scorers list?
Ooh.
We got number 1. Can we get number 2?
I know it.
I'm not sure.
Do you know it? Jack, if you get it wrong,
We
I'm
should
taking
have
the point
swapped
away.
questions.
No,
Jack,
okay,
go on.
I don't know it.
Okay, no, I don't know either.
Jack?
Is he recently set it?
Jack, who is it?
Wayne Rooney.
Correct answer is Andy Cole.
Didn't Wayne Rooney overtake him like a few days ago? That's definitely
No,
happened.
wasn't
Well, he's
your
not
question
scored a few
anyway,
days
God.
ago, but you know.
Anyway,
Well,
who
like
was
this
Britain's
week,
first-
last few
who was Britain's first £1 million player?
Oh, I know. Was it Trevor Francis?
Correct. Good
Yeah.
knowledge. Which team used to play at Filbert Street?
Leicester.
Correct. Matthew Le Tissier played for which team?
Southampton.
Correct. Which English team's
Oh, this is
name
too
starts
easy.
with 5 consonants?
Sorry?
Which English league team's name starts with 5 consonants? As in vowels.
Wow. I didn't even know that.
I don't know that team.
That's just an amazing fact. I don't know.
5.
I want to know
4,
who.
3, 2. The correct answer is Premier League's Crystal Palace.
Oh.
Cryst.
Wow.
Crystal. Yeah.
Okay,
I'm just sat thinking Crystal's two syllables, but there's only one vowel.
Which-
So then a Y sometimes counts, doesn't it?
Which means that it's a draw.
Excellent.
Was it really?
So everyone's wasted
I
their
quite
time
like
again.
that.
The Wayne Rooney one was right, so
5 points each. Yeah, but I tell you, figures are not important. So we need to have some sort of decider, don't we?
we do.
Do we?
Which
Should
I've
we?
not. I'll be honest, I've not prepared.
Let's end it on a draw.
Okay, no, we'll do it. Here's the quiz. Between you, I want a guess from each. Okay, we'll start with Jack. How many games did Tim Sherwood last at Aston Villa? How many games? How many matches? League matches, perhaps, but how many
League matches.
Nah, just matches. I think we'll go just matches.
28.
Callum.
Oh, I think that's a few too many.
It depends if it's the FA Cup or not. Cause,
Nah, it's total matches.
22.
Correct answer is 28.
Oh
he
my-
had the same amount
well
as
done,
he did at
Jack.
Tottenham as well.
Bam.
Tottenham had the same amount. Did you know that, Jack? 'Cause that's a weird
No,
guess. if you
I
did.
didn't. That was a complete guess. But
Okay,
take
and that brings us to the end. Jack wins again. it
Yeah,
seems.
trophy. I'm waving it in my
Well
hands.
done. You've won this week's Feature of the Week. Bum bum bum.
Quiz of the week.
Stop this. Hopefully you liked that. That was 9 minutes. iTunes, the person that left the review on iTunes. Hopefully you've enjoyed it so far. Hopefully we've shown
We didn't
off
really redeem ourselves, did we?
if anything, we've probably made it worse. Expect more reviews of a high nature. What we've actually done now, by talking about the reviews, people are going to leave more negative reviews because we know we talk about them.
They're going to want their moment of
If you want,
fame.
we'll do a deal. If you want to review the podcast, say whatever you like, but just give it 5 stars. And we'll read the best ones out next week. Yeah?
Let's do that.
As long as you rate it 5 stars.
It can be a question, it can be a statement, it can be a shout out to your grandma Phyllis.
Phyllis. Have you got
I just invented that name. It sounded good.
Right, boys, there's only one place to start. We had some more Premier League action this week, but the on-the-pitch antics were not what mattered.
Where are we going to start, Ben?
We're going to start at Aston Villa, Callum. Aston Villa have been through a rough start to the season.
What happened to Aston Villa, Ben?
Of Tim Sherwood. Well, I mean, Keno, you were there. Set the scene.
The game was pretty nondescript, actually. It was just similar to what we've experienced all season. Just went ahead.
You went ahead. You went ahead.
Well, yeah, we've gone ahead a few times. We went ahead at Leicester and managed to cock that up. Yeah.
Okay, so you scored. Who got the goal? Remind me.
It was a pretty good goal actually, created by Grealish.
It was Jornay, wasn't it?
And then it was A scored finished off a nice move, 1-0 up. I think everyone went mental more out of relief than of sort of expectation.
Was there sort of an underlying fear though?
I think everyone knew what was going to happen if the result didn't. Actually, Philippe Auclair wrote today that it actually might have been planned already, so I'm not sure whether the result might have made a difference, but I think everyone in the ground knew if we lost, Timmy would have been gone.
That would have been it.
Are you upset about it?
Are you upset about it? Good question.
I mean,
are you? I'm here all week.
I like how he qualified that.
You've done. That's one of the better ones you've done. To be honest, Jack, I didn't pick up on it first time, so that was good. Let's carry on with the game. Let's keep setting the scene.
Sorry.
Gylfi Sigurdsson scored an absolutely fantastic free kick. They highlighted our match of the day.
I mean,
it was a stunner.
It was a good free kick, but I have a thing about this. Jan Villa scored an identical free kick against Brad Guzan about a month ago in the Sunderland game, which finished 2-2. And Guzan's position, his starting position, I know the wall is there to stop it, but Guzan looked like he was too far over to his left, like overcompensating too much. And he was only about maybe half a foot away from the ball. And he did that against Villa. And the free kicks, they were both very good strikes. Gylfi's was probably a bit better. But I feel like they could have been saved if he hadn't have made that error, which he's made a few times.
It's interesting you say that, because Danny Murphy on Match of the Day said that he thought Guzan couldn't do anything about it. He was still in a position that if he commits one side, that he's gone too far over, and if he goes to the other side, he's guessing. And actually, I agree with you. I think Guzan's starting position isn't right. I think he could take an extra step to the right-hand side. He's not very often going to be beat, especially by Gylfi Sigurdsson. I've not seen Gylfi Sigurdsson whip it in the sort of far corner too often. Guzan doesn't have to react that quickly to save it on that side, comparatively to his other sides, where it's kind of more obvious that Sigurdsson's going to try and put it. I think you've got a point where I think Guzan's position isn't ideal, but that wasn't any of the problems, Callum.
No, and predictably, once that goal went in, it didn't look like we were going to score again, and it just followed the pattern that we've seen too much under Sherwood, really. We kind of capitulated. We were all at sea for the goal. It was quite a nice move, finished off by Ayew, but Richardson, Lescott, who's looked awful since he came in, was nowhere to be seen. And Sherwood was off very quickly down the tunnel on the final whistle. Apparently there was a brawl in the tunnel, which we might hear a bit more about in coming days.
Oh, between who?
Gary Monk did mention it after the game, but Michael Richards and Ashley Williams and Fernandez were sort of they had a little bit of handbags during the match, you might have seen on the highlights, and then maybe that carried on down the tunnel, I don't know, but yeah, we might hear a bit more of that in the coming days. Deary
me. So obviously the result of that was that Mr. Sherwood he's gone, effectively gone, and Brendan Rodgers is not the man that's set to replace him. Jack, what do you make of the sacking then? Obviously, Keno gave his thoughts on the whole Brendan Rodgers, Jurgen Klopp situation, but let's come to you. What do you make of it? Harsh? Fair?
I think when a manager like Sherwood comes in and spends the money that he has, granted, it's not really Premier League kind of quality. Oh, sorry, not Premier League quality, but like Premier League established players. But I kind of felt like he had to do that. But I think given the performances, it's just not been a good sign for the money that's been put into the club. But part of me feels a little bit kind of aggrieved by all of this, if I'm honest.
What do you mean by that?
Well, so I just feel a bit bad for Shed, because I actually feel like this kind of whole pressure that's come onto him has only really snuck onto him in kind of the last 4 or 5 match days. And before that, there was grumbles of discontent, but you didn't have, I guess, an inkling that he might lose his job.
Actually, it's funny you should say that, but I think for Villa fans, the first signs, obviously the FA Cup run was great, but we got spanked in the final. But I think the first signs that he really was out of his depth was the 6-1 defeat at Southampton, when we just got the point to arguably keep us safe, which it just about did at the end of last year. But then we still needed maybe another point or two to get us over the line. And we went to Southampton and got utterly destroyed in 6-1. Vlaar made some howlers. He was tactically all at sea. I think that was... And that kind of theme carried on into over pre-season and through into the beginning of this season. With regards to the sacking, I think I'm glad that the club has made the decision as quick as they have done. Because, as I said to you before, Ben, if they'd have waited till more around Christmas time, and we'd been, maybe 10 points adrift, that situation for a new manager is a lot less recoverable. And if you're looking to appoint a more progressive manager like Remy Gard, as it will be, I think that I expect that to be done within the next 24 hours.
This time next week, it will be a new man, and it'll have had a game, interestingly, so we'll be able to talk about that.
Yeah, and with that in mind, I don't really want us to appoint like a firefighter, Tony Pulis, Allardyce type manager. I'd rather us go for a slightly more progressive. If I wanted aggression, I'd go for Pulis. Progressive kind of manager to build over a bit of a longer time and get the best out of the sort of more cultured players that we've got. Grill, Grealish, Adama Traore, etc. And if they'd have waited till Christmas...
Do you think you've got enough good players to do that? Because my fear for Villa is that it's all well and good you want this progressive manager, but he hasn't really, because of your start, you haven't got that luxury.
Well,
so
I don't think
from an outsider point of view, I asked you last week, I said, if you'd have taken Allardyce, would you have taken Allardyce? You said, no, I wouldn't have taken Allardyce. But you look at Sunderland, they've just overtaken you. It's one game, I know, against Newcastle. We'll come on to it later. But the Sunderland fans, I bet, feel a hell of a lot more confident with Sam Allardyce in charge than they do with De Cavacat. And I think, although Remy Gard comes with a relatively good reputation from France, it went a little bit astray. He's not a dissimilar manager to Brendan Rodgers. We were talking about this earlier in the week, that their styles aren't too dissimilar. But we also said that Brendan Rodgers probably, as much as he might get some good performances out of that team and he might be able to develop that team, he's not the right man for the current situation. And I worry with Remy Gard that it's going to be a similar situation.
Well, I think
how do you view that?
I would have agreed with that if this sacking and this whole thing had occurred 2 months down the line. But there's still a lot of games left in the season and the gap is only 4 points still. That's the thing. I think if the club had waited longer, it would have needed a firefighter type manager to come in and just keep us up by the skin of our teeth. But I think the fact that they've done it now, they'll have a couple of months leading up to the transfer window. Presumably they'll back him with money, considering it could be the last transfer window in the Premier League for Lerner if it goes wrong. You'd expect them to back him. And I think actually the players that we have in the squad, it's not a bad squad. The players are of a certain quality to the point where I think we could comfortably sit mid-table. The thing is, what they've lacked is, firstly, organisation. Secondly, the manager that will play to their strengths. I think Sherwood, particularly since he signed Gested, focused too much on playing the kind of sort of up and at 'em, get it down the wings sort of style that doesn't suit the players that he signed, which is worrying because it points towards a disconnect between the recruitment philosophy and the manager and what he thinks. And it looked like that.
Sorry, Kenny, can I just go on to Jack? Because everything you're saying, and it's something else we spoke about during the week. But Jack, do you think the situation is quite similar to the Brendan Rodgers situation?
I think it is, and I think the thing that makes them so similar is perhaps the fact that certainly leading up to both sackings, there was a degree of inevitability. I can't even say the word inevitability about both sackings. It kind of at the start of the season, if you said pick out 2 managers who were going to be sacked this year, I feel like Sherwood and Rodgers would have been the 2 you would have gone for. I said a bit about how it kind of crept up on Sherwood. I think there was actually a point where maybe after Sherwood's signings where he was perhaps winning a few people on board.
I think Callum, you were one of those.
Yeah,
and I feel like in recent games it's kind of turned on him as people have kind of lost faith in his signings. I think early on it was a case of, we've looked okay. Obviously got the 3 points against Bournemouth, which is the only win this season so far.
But really, I didn't even think about that. So the first time the weekend was the only win.
That was the only win we've had. We've lost the last 7.
I feel like that optimism slowly drained away, and that's kind of what I meant by it's kind of snuck up on Sherwood, I guess. Because there was a point, I think, we were talking maybe a month ago, and you were like, "I'll let you know when I'm worried, but I'm not worried yet." And then it was just a switch that went in your mind, and I think it's perhaps a switch that went in a lot of kind of fans' minds. Where it's like, he's not the right man now.
Since that point, we've lost 5 in a row and scored 2 goals. So, but to touch on the signings, a lot of the people in the media have been saying since he's gone, and kind of before that he's not signed any Premier League experience. It's all very unproven. I don't buy that. Like you say, I think the signings were good. We spent a lot of money, 5th highest spend in the Premier League this summer, and we've recruited a fair amount of Premier League kind of experience, which I'm not even sure counts for that much if you look at teams like Southampton, who have gone with a slightly more continental sort of recruitment strategy and are doing really well.
Swansea the same as well.
Exactly. I'm not sure. I think that's a bit of a sort of media spun myth that you need to be signing experienced campaigners like Lescott, who's been shit, to sort of keep you on a kind of level playing field. That's why I think Gard is probably a better choice than someone like Moyes, because I think he will get the players a bit more. They will get him, and I think it's a better fit for the squad that we've assembled since Benteke departed. I think it's a good appointment, and he's got a bit of time, like I say, to sort of get his feet under. And even if we are adrift, maybe come Christmas, there's a lot of games, and you see it turned around a lot. So. I'm not.
Yeah. So, by all intents and purposes, you think that it's happened at a time where there's enough time for this to be recovered, and it's not. It's not a negative move by Villa. In your eyes, it's certainly a positive one. It's something that is going to improve the fortunes of the club.
Like you say, in the same way that comparing it to Brendan Rodgers and the Liverpool situation, Klopp's still got time to get you into the top 4, and Gard's still got a lot of time to get us, where we need to be in terms of out of danger. So I think they are quite similar in that regard.
Okay, well, I think it's going to be interesting to see how it develops. I do think that we talked about it. I think the levels are slightly different, but the situations between Liverpool and Villa are quite similar. It's going to be fascinating to see what happens next.
It will be very interesting to see, to sort of watch it develop, just from a neutral point of view as well. Because I think if Gard had been appointed in the summer, people would kind of associate a lot less risk with it. But because he's come in halfway through after a sacking, it seems to be a bit more risky, but I'm not sure it is.
Okay, well, let's move on, because this isn't an Aston Villa podcast, but it's nice, really, that we've got you on as a co-host this year, and now things have been happening with Liverpool and Villa, and it's been, really, we get to give sort of a bit more of an in-depth look at those 2 sackings.
I feel like we need to get a Chelsea fan on, so Mourinho gets sacked. I think that's how it works.
If any Chelsea fans fancy it, if you want your manager gone,
Joe Robinson.
Become a no chance. I'm not getting him on. Not enough banter. Anyway, so you've said Chelsea, Jack. Thank you for the link. I appreciate it. As poor as it was, thank you for the link. Jose Mourinho has been sent to the stand, apparently, because Andy Carroll. It was written in the stars, I think, that Andy Carroll was going to come on and ruin Mourinho's mood even more than it has done previously. But really, it all went wrong for Chelsea as soon as Nemanja Matic decided he didn't really fancy it this weekend. Jack?
Yeah. I don't even know what went through his mind. I feel like with the first one, you could be like, he's a little bit unlucky to get a yellow. But then it is a yellow. It reminds me a bit of, I'll tell you what it reminds me of, the Dwight Gale red card last week, where the ref probably has the option to keep him on the pitch, but by the letter of the law, he's gone and he's gone.
It's one of those situations where the ref is sort of running over, deciding, forgetting he's already given him a yellow. And it's like he's bringing out the yellow, and then by the time we sort of reached for it, he's gone, this is going to be a second one, isn't it? And then he has to kind of send him off, and that's just the way it is. But sorry, carry on.
But it was just a weird game for a lot of reasons. Like, it had a weird feeling about it. I didn't feel like Chelsea looked particularly interested in the game, and well, West Ham looked like the better team. If you'd looked at those two teams, I feel like you would have said West Ham were the team who were kind of, expected to finish higher in the table. And I guess you could argue that they are now after this result, really, because they've beaten so many big teams. You mentioned the Mourinho kind of getting sent to the stands. I feel like that really summarised the game in a lot of ways and was kind of... I don't want to say it's been typical of Chelsea season, and I really don't want to talk about Chelsea season again. But I guess the game as a whole was just typical of both teams' seasons so far.
I think we'll talk more about Chelsea when Chelsea's situation actually changes.
Yeah.
Because at the moment it's just the same old, same old. Callum, are not surprised about West Ham, are we?
Well,
let's face it. West Ham have done it again.
The thing is, up until a few weeks ago, it was going in that sort of up and down way. But Bilic seems to have been able to sort of smooth out those bad performances, like the ones that they gave against Bournemouth earlier in the year. And he sort of smoothed those bad bits out, and they're starting to look more and more consistent. And as these sort of signings bed in, like Lanzini, who's fantastic, and Payet, it seems like, I think we were right to begin with, but it looks as if he's sort of exceeding our expectations. They were really, really good. And like you say about Chelsea, their situation's not really changed, and more the story is, how long will this go on for? So while it kind of continues in that way, we can only really say so much. I don't think Mourinho will get sacked. I think he's probably got till the end of the season. But he does look like a man who wants to go, or wants to make the owner sack him. It's very, very strange, considering what they did last year.
I mean, that's the kiss of death.
But obviously we don't want to spend too much time on that.
He might be gone. That might be that.
I feel like it's been a very reactionary Premier League. There's been 3 sackings and we're still in October. I don't know if there's been a season with more sackings in the first 10 games. But it wouldn't surprise me if that's a record, especially if we get another sack in Mourinho, which I don't think is going to happen immediately. It's worth mentioning in this game, it had one of the most exciting moments in this game so far for me this Premier League season, which was when Zuma's header didn't cross the line by a centimetre. It's one of the few times where I've seen goal line technology and gone, thank God we've got that.
Yeah, can you imagine how many pundits and how many people would have said it would have gone? Like, people would have said, "Oh, that's gone in." That's outrageous, because it looked like it's so close. You're more likely to say, "Oh, that's gone in," than, "Oh no, it's definitely on the line." But goal line technology, as you say, it's proving its worth at long last. West Ham, though, Jack, I think. Tell you what, we almost mocked West Ham for sort of putting it in against the big teams and not quite putting it in against the smaller teams. But in fairness to them, they're third in the league after 9 games? Is it now? Or 10 games
10
even?
Games.
Sorry, 10 games. They've got 20 points. They're 2 points behind the teams that are top of the table. They're level with Manchester United, who have had a decent start to the season. They're only a point above Leicester.
And you also consider the games they've played. That's a very good point. They could finish top 4. They could be. This sounds mental, but it could happen at this point with Chelsea looking like they're vacating their spot in Europe for the year. I mean, it would be dreamy, I'm sure, for West Ham fans, particularly given the fact, last season in Upton Park, moving on across to, the Olympic Stadium. There's been this talk, hasn't there, about West Ham, and I've heard it from a few people saying they could be the team that kind of become the team to crack the top 4, which might sound absolutely mad, but they've kind of been that team outside of perhaps the top 6, if we include Spurs and Liverpool, who have looked like they might be on the verge of it. There's been lots of talk, new stadium coming, new manager. Is it possible? I'm starting to become a believer.
Really? Do you think fourth is realistically possible?
I don't know if fourth is, but I think they'll be challenging for that spot throughout the season at this point.
I'm a little worried it'll be similar to Southampton last season, that everyone said, "Oh, do you know what? They could do it. Go on, Jack. Keno, even.
That was exactly what I was going to say. The thing that everyone trots out is the fact that they don't have a big enough squad. But it might actually be the case. Although West Ham's squad, I think, is stronger than Southampton's was last year. If you sort of compare it, they've got a lot of depth. If you look at, say, for instance, just take their striking options with Carroll, Sakho. They can really switch it around up there, which is quite impressive. So they could do it, and I think actually moving into the Olympic Stadium is the kind of thing that might kick them onto the next level in terms of their revenue and the size of the club. It would be really good to see. I just worry for all the sort of obvious reasons about whether they can keep it up for the whole year.
Listeners, we're halfway through the show, and I've got some bad news. Callum, Jack, I don't know if I can say.
his internet's crap.
Yeah, so
and we don't work in a studio. We don't have the budget yet.
Just make up an excuse. I mean, we haven't got one, Callum. So what we're going to do is just go on without him. It's a good way we was here for the Villa chat. I mean, if that would have been missed, then I don't know what we'd have done.
For just £2,000 a week, you can help us rent a London-based studio. Yeah. Text studio to 0808.
Yeah, who can turn down a deal like that? So what we'll do is it's like old times, Jack, me and you, mate.
World Cup throwback.
For some people who have just wanted me and you anyway, this is the perfect podcast.
I mean, the X factor's gone in some people's eyes, but I think the Y and Z factor are still here.
Yeah, the 20-somethings are still here, so sorry, review. So we were talking about... I've completely forgotten. We were talking about West Ham and how good they are. What we'll do now is we'll move on to another team that's been... I don't know. They've been in good form, actually, I think, but it's going under the radar a little bit. Tottenham Hotspur, Jack, a 5-1 victory against PA error-bound Bournemouth, who looked... It was boys against men, Jack.
It was. And everyone in the stadium knew it by the end of the game.
He did. Well, they did, even. The guy that did it has come out actually as a Spurs fan who managed to get on the waves of...
Should we explain the story? I feel like people are going to be a bit
lost. I feel like we
here.
should explain the story. So basically, at the end of the Bournemouth game, it's heard over the PA system. So somebody, everyone thought it was like the Bournemouth PA guy, going, fucking unbelievable. He then goes on to say, it's like men against boys. And the crowd think it's obviously hilarious and think the guy that said it's going to get sacked. It was actually, as I say, a Spurs fan who's got a YouTube channel, right? Or something.
Yeah, I mean, we'd plug it if we were organised, but we're not, so...
Yeah, Google it. Google Bournemouth PA error, and you'll find it, something like that. But for the first time this season, we've seen Harry Kane in the Premier League put in a performance we were expecting. You must be pleased because you thought he was more than a one-season wonder.
Well, this brings up an interesting question, because at what point does Kane stop being a one-season wonder? Like, how many times in the second season do you have to perform for it to be kind of... dispelled the myth?
I think 15 to 16, 17 goals, and then no one will say it. It'll be gone.
So Grant Hull wasn't a one-season wonder? Neither was Ricky
not
Lambert.
in the Premier League. No, they were not in the Premier Couple of good seasons.
I just wanted to quantify. Maybe people can let us know what they think. Because I had a lot of stick given to me by a few people on Twitter for suggesting that I didn't think he was. But then the thing that's really difficult with kind of one-season wonders and judging a player after 1 year, it's like... At what point, like, how can you at the start of the second season say, oh, he's going to be a one-season wonder? Like, what basis do you have to build that on?
Yeah, if anything, you should say that you should not think that. You
exactly.
should think the alternative, because you've just seen him have a fantastic season, and really, the logical
it's
explanation...
It's like you want him to fail, and so when he doesn't score in, 6 games, it's like, well, he's a one-season wonder now. Yeah. It's just a very weird mentality to have, I think.
Well, logically speaking, you should think, oh, he's going to have another great year. As I say, it's strange that people have this sort of need to see players like Harry Kane fail, young English players that have had a good year, and immediately what we want to do is tear them down again. It seems curious. But he goes off a hat-trick, and Spurs are very good. It's the first time, obviously, considering there are 3 games on Sky on the Sunday, this wasn't one of them. They showed Sky up, really, by having a game with 6 goals.
It wasn't the best weekend of football, really, was it? Like, you look at the fixtures that we had, there were some tasty ones there, but... I mean, we'll come on to a few of them, but...
Well, I think Sunderland-Newcastle is one that's relatively interesting. Manchester United-City... was 0-0. What I will say, though, is that I berated the Manchester United midfield against Arsenal for being too open and poor. A midfield that was without Schneidlin, whereas this week, Schneidlin was there. Manchester United looked far better in midfield and gave Yaya Toure and Kevin De Bruyne a much trickier time in there. Just sort of a word. Sorry, Spurs fans, I know I've kind of brushed over your 5-1, but you were very good. I mean, and it's hard to say too much about it, but obviously the Manchester derby, Jack...
It was underwhelming, wasn't it? You think Manchester derby, you think kind of crazy overhead kick flying in. When you think that these two teams are right at the top of the table. I mean, the only real talking point about this game, in my opinion, is just how bad Rooney was. And I hate to be like the person who brings up how bad Rooney was, but he was awful in this game. It's
usually me that does that. I think the problem with Wayne Rooney is that I think a lot of Manchester United fans would quite like to see a Manchester United without Wayne Rooney, just to see what it's like. In a similar way to Liverpool fans felt the same way with Steven Gerrard. There was a period when Gerrard was injured where Liverpool were without him and played very well. Now, there are some games in which, especially this season, we've missed Steven Gerrard, and I think Manchester United fans might value Wayne Rooney if he's dropped for a few games and then he comes on and does something and then potentially gets himself back to where he has to be considered a starter for Manchester United. Now, I know he's the captain, and I know Van Gaal apparently picks him for his leadership abilities more so than his current form. Sort of obviously, right? Because his current form's not very good.
Well, have you seen his stats for this game?
Well, there has to become a point, doesn't there, with Rooney, that as you point out in this big game, his stats weren't good. Have you got them for me?
I have 54% pass completion, lost possession 28 times. That was the most on the pitch.
Isn't it?
50 touches. So, like, he lost the ball more than every 2 touches. That takes some doing.
And actually, I thought United played relatively well. That City team have been putting people to the sword.
City looked like one of the best creative teams in the league in terms of going forward. Obviously, they smashed Bournemouth last week. United really blunted them. It was one of those games where I don't feel like either team particularly looked like scoring. I think there was maybe 2 shots on target in the entire game.
Yeah, I want to talk about the centre-back partnership for Manchester United. I thought Chris Smalling and Phil Jones have come in for a lot of criticism. I've been someone that's criticised them as well. I think like at the start of the season, you'd have all said Manchester United need a centre-back. Actually, against Manchester City, and this season Smalling's been good anyway, but that back two in particular looked very, very good. And now they weren't playing against Aguero, they were playing against Boney, but as you've just pointed out, City are in hot form. They've had a fantastic result the previous weekend. They had a great result in midweek in the Champions League as well. So it was a fantastic performance. I think those two with Schneiderlin in front really do cause an attacking unit a problem when they're that solid. And I think Van Gaal will be delighted.
The thing is, Jones is really kind of... I feel... I'll start with Smalling. With Smalling's really... His praise has been built up, I think, by a lot of football fans, but particularly United fans over the last kind of year. Towards the end of last season, he started to really establish himself as the centre-back for Manchester United. And I feel a bit sorry for Jones, because I kind of feel like Jones has been a victim of the fact he's kind of maybe seen as the more versatile defender in the United team. There's been very few times where he's had an extended run at centre-back. And I wonder if just giving him that run, obviously Darmian's come in this year, granted at left-back, perhaps as a whole where Rojo and I guess Blin can kind of play. I wonder if this is going to be an opportunity now for Jones to really play at the centre of defence, which I think is his preferred position, and maybe just kind of establish something with Smalling.
I think the pressure's off a little bit. I think because of the stick Rooney's getting, because Memphis Depay's not quite working out, because Martial's playing very well, because Schweinsteiger and Schneiderlin have kind of added a bit more solidity in the middle, that there's not as much responsibility on that Manchester United back two, and due to that fact, they're allowed to express themselves a little bit more, play a lot more comfortably, and they look like they've been playing there for years. I don't want to compare them too soon to Vidic and Ferdinand, but there was that sort of aura about them, I thought, in that game, and that's the first time I've ever been able to say that, and it's nice that you can say it in a Manchester derby where I think those two players in particular looked really good. I get a little bit of criticism for being anti-Manchester United, but actually when I see them play well and I see good things, I'm very happy to talk about it, and I thought the defensive partnership of Jones and Smalling was probably the highlight for me this week in terms of that game.
I've got a stat of the week for you here.
Oh, I love a stat of the week.
It's the first time in the Premier League since 2004 that United didn't get a shot on target in the first half.
That shows you just how good the defence was. So I'll take that.
What about Depay? Can we? Or Memphis? I know you kind of mentioned him just a little bit because he's a curious case. He came in with a lot of hype, and for the first few games, he really had a swagger about him. And I wonder if he's been taken down a little bit of a peg by Van Gaal being put on the bench for this kind of game.
I tipped him to be my signing of the season. I said I think he will be the standout player of the year of the transfers that were made. Not sort of the overall best player, but of the transfers that were made. And it's interesting you bring up Depay because I tweeted out, United fans, what's the story with Memphis? And generally speaking, it's that Rooney has to play, is number one. So there's not room for him in that regard. And obviously he's put Martial on the left-hand side. And you could argue that Depay could probably play there, Memphis can play there. But it's that Louis van Gaal and a lot of the people at Manchester United have decided to say, look, if you're not going to sort of play to our philosophy, if you're not going to play for the team, then you ain't playing in this team. You look at the work ethic that Martial's got. Depay probably doesn't have that right now
Jesse
for whatever
Lingard
reason.
As well, coming on off the bench.
Well, yeah, he came on instead of Depay, right?
Yeah.
Jesse Lingard comes on. Obviously, he's bought into what Van Gaal's trying to do. It might not always be pretty, but it's effective, especially when you're stopping a team like City from doing what they do. So, I think a large part of that goes down to that midfield working harder than it probably has done for the past few seasons. Memphis is obviously a player who's immensely talented, but can't be carried in games where you need him to graft. And I think that's the big thing, and I think that's arguably why he's not starting, because Van Gaal looks at his team, he looks at the players that want to commit, and it really says to Memphis, look, want to be part of this team? Well, you're going to have to buy in then, because this is how we do things, and I'm sure Van Gaal's eventual sort of gain from this is Depay will become that player and realise that's how he's got to play if he's going to be a success at Manchester United. And I think it's very bold by Van Gaal because the transfer is massive, and especially, do you know what? It's interesting that Depay's Dutch as well, and I think something somewhere that plays into the sort of mindset of Van Gaal of he expects so much out of Depay, and he wants him to be such a big success that he has to treat him harsher than anyone else. Do you know what I mean by that? Yeah. So I think that's kind of the situation with Memphis. Do you feel the same?
Yeah, I do. I wonder. I do feel like there's almost an arrogance about him, like he's not buying into the whole team thing. I don't want to say. I feel like he's been at a lot of clubs in the last kind of few years, at a club in the last few years, where he has been the focal point. He's been the star of the show. And now he's like kind of learning at United. He isn't that go-to player. Isn't the guy who the ball is always going to come through. And it must be frustrating for him to see Rooney kind of being that kind of player to an extent, and then just thinking, I can do better than that. But at the same time, like, he's got to put the graft in, hasn't he?
Absolutely.
I feel like for City, like, they're not going to be too worried about this result either. Like, as much as 0-0's not great, it's...
Yeah, for them it's an away point at Manchester United, and I think most times City fans, while they might be disappointed that they've not done more, it's not that bad, is it?
No.
I mean, they'll take that. If it was at home, I think they'd feel very different about it. I think they'd be pretty
definitely.
annoyed. There was another big derby. I think it's amazing, really. It's taken 40 minutes because I've actually got quite a lot to say on this game. Sunderland Newcastle. Sunderland went into this game winning, what was it, 5 or 4 derbies in a row? I think it was 5 derbies. This was the 6th.
Yeah,
3-0 win over
crazy.
Newcastle. As every Newcastle fan is pointing out, for the first, I don't know, did you watch the game?
I saw this kind of on and off, so I know the story of the game. I've seen all the key talking points, which I'm sure we'll come on to. But Newcastle were the better team.
So
like anyone who comes away from that game, like, is not going to believe the score. If you showed like someone the highlights of the games, but without the goal, you'd be like 2 or 3-0 Newcastle, especially off that first half.
The first 20-30 minutes. Actually, I'll shout him out. Not that he needs my publicity, but True Geordie made the point. YouTuber True Geordie, who's a Newcastle fan, said that in the first half an hour, I seriously wondered how on earth are Sunderland going to get anything from this game, and well, the way they did it was, I don't want to say a controversial penalty because I don't think it was that controversial. I think the red card is somewhat more controversial, but we'll talk about that in a moment. From seeing the incident over and over again, Newcastle fans and a few other people will tell you it's unfair, and sort of non-Newcastle supporting fans, and sort of like, I see myself as a neutral in any game that isn't with like Liverpool. I figure myself to be a neutral in any situation. So for me, it's definitely a foul, and I will now go through those reasons. Jack, are you ready for this? I feel like we should do.
That's fine. Go through it.
I'll go for a 1 through 3. The first reason is that Colaccini doesn't have. People talk about this shoulder-to-shoulder thing, right? That often occurs when two players are running down the line and one of them is inevitably going to get hold of the ball at some point, and that shoulder-to-shoulder thing is often sort of you gain possession
You're
from doing it.
You're battling, aren't you, for position to then get onto the ball.
Whereas Fletcher doesn't have complete control of the ball, but Colaccini certainly doesn't have control of the ball because he runs across. Now, Colaccini comes across, he barges into Fletcher, and the force in which he barges into Fletcher without playing the ball, by the way, so talk about shoulder to shoulder as much as you like, he doesn't get near the ball. Colaccini also goes down, and the law is that, well, first of all, that is a foul and it is a penalty. And if an arm would have gone up or anything, it is obstruction.
Because the interesting thing is, if it is obstruction, it's an indirect free kick.
Well, it would be it would be a foul anywhere else on the pitch because he's obstructing someone from getting the ball without playing the ball.
This was the interesting debate I was having with some people, because I actually think, as much as it's a foul, it's an indirect free kick for obstruction, because I don't feel like he's clattered through the man. I think he's blocked off the man from running the direction he wanted to run, which is...
You're saying indirect free kick, but it's obviously it's in the penalty area.
Yeah, but you still have indirect free kicks in the penalty area.
Yeah, but not for a foul, you...
No, I feel like that's... by the letter of the law... You're trying to change the rules.
You're trying to change the rules.
No, by the letter of the law, if it is kind of interference and obstruction, that's an indirect free kick, not a penalty.
No, it's not in the penalty area, it's not.
It is.
Oh, God, we're going to get another review. It's not. That's not the rule.
Well, let's someone find the rule book.
He denies a goal-scoring opportunity, though.
But I don't think it was, though, because the keeper had the ball.
Yeah, but the argument is that Fletcher may well have got there if Colaccini
I
doesn't
don't
wipe
think he
him
is
out.
getting there, though.
But if Fletcher has a clean run on that, I think he gets there. I think he maybe only just gets there, maybe he only just gets a flick on it, maybe he doesn't actually score. But the point is he's got a goal-scoring opportunity, and that is the rule. If you deny a goal-scoring opportunity by obstructing, or do whatever to deny it, if you can use your arm, for example, which is technically
I guess it
obstruction,
depends
right?
if you think the ball... I think the ball's gone at that point, and I think it's obstruction, and it's an indirect free kick. That's my interpretation. I honestly don't think Fletcher's getting there. The ball's a good 3 or 4 yards ahead of him.
Please stop. You're going to get so much shit in the comment section of this video. You can't have an indirect free kick in the penalty area unless it's for a back pass. You can't have a free kick in the penalty area unless it's for a back pass.
I want to check this now.
Oh my God, I can't believe I'm working with you. What do you mean?
Because I think it's an indirect free kick.
Okay, well, I'm going to let you look that up. Anyway, the
You
resulting penalty...
continue, because you said you had a lot to say.
Adam Johnson scores. After the game, Sam Allardyce said he would like the rule change in that, although he's a Sunderland fan, he doesn't think that a red card is necessarily fair in the situation if a penalty is given. Now, if it's for violent conduct or whatever, then I think that's slightly different. But I wish Keno was here to discuss the mental thing you've just said, by the way. So Sam Allardyce would like the rule change so that if the penalty is conceded, you don't get a red card, you just get a yellow card. So because you are effectively punished twice, aren't you, if you get a red card and a penalty? Okay.
It's an indirect free kick if the defender doesn't make contact, but because he did make contact, it is a penalty. So I'll hold my hands up. And we were both right, except
well,
in
if
this
Colaccini had
instance.
held his hands up, it might not have been a penalty.
It's true.
We're both right. I can't believe you're trying to take this. Unbelievable. Yeah, and then obviously from that point on, the game had changed. It swung in a completely different direction, and Sunderland ran out 3-0 winners. But it's a very unfortunate situation for Newcastle, who were the better team. I don't think many Sunderland fans would argue with that. Even with 10 men, Newcastle looked like the better team, and obviously coming off the back of a 6-2, it's going to be really disheartening for Steve McLaren, who's seen a very good performance from his side. He's seen another relatively good performance, but a derby defeat.
And they're now second bottom, and Sunderland go above them.
Yeah, and as good as Newcastle played last week, it counts for nothing if you lose 3-0. And Colaccini, by the way, the way he's doing it is it's dreadful defending. Just as a point, I mean, it's horrendous defending. Do you think they're both going to go down still? We kind of touched on this last week, but obviously now they've played each other. You think they'll both go down?
I think if one of the teams is going to step, it's going to be Newcastle.
Who's your bottom three? Keno's not here, so you can say what you like. Who's going down at the end of the season?
Bournemouth.
Okay, yeah.
Sunderland.
Do you think Norwich?
Sunderland, and then part of me wants to say Norwich, part of me wants... See, I think it's going to be Bournemouth and Sunderland by a margin, but I think that last spot could be... You could have Newcastle, you could have Villa, you could have Norwich, you might even have Stoke or Watford down there.
Basically, the team that doesn't sign Charlie Austin in January, they'll be going down.
Yeah, pretty much.
Is that what you're getting at? Okay. And the thing is, I don't necessarily disagree with that. I think if Villa sign him, they'll probably stay up. If Norwich sign him, probably stay up, etc. It's weird, isn't it? So yeah, Sunderland 3, Newcastle 0. Big Sam again follows the tradition, gets another win in a derby.
Can I issue an apology to the viewers for my obstruction debacle?
Oh no! Oh, he's crawling. He is crawling back.
No, I think it is an interesting point though. Like the idea that if he hadn't, if Fletcher runs around him and doesn't get to the ball, it's only an indirect free kick.
I'm not doing this. There were some other games though this weekend.
I don't know if they're that exciting though compared to discussing the obstruction and the rest of the laws of the game.
The rule that you're trying to make up. We'll go to Leicester Crystal Palace quickly. Jamie Vardy, he scored again, Jack. It's 10-10.
At what point am I allowed to go? I rate him now because I keep saying that I think Vardy's a bit of a. I think it's another Mahrez assist.
Jack, it's fine, Jack. He's a one-season wonder.
Well, it's another Mahrez assist. I feel like Mahrez should be getting more credit. I know Mahrez is getting quite a lot of credit, but Mahrez...
I just don't want to give Vardy any credit. I like that.
Well, I've heard that he's off to Real Madrid. That's what the story of the paper is today.
Very true. James Vardy apparently headhunted by Real Madrid.
Competition for Benzema.
I can see it now. I mean, Ronaldo. There's potential that Ronaldo will leave at the end of the season. I think PSG is sort of the talk, or return to the Premier League. You never know. Manchester United might be sniffing. But yeah, James Vardy to Real Madrid is probably... I mean, I did a feature on Dr. Benji, a football chat with Ben, right? Of sort of mental rumour. 1 week I had Sergio Ramos going to Real Madrid. I think of the season, Jamie Vardy to Real Madrid is the most mental. If that happens, Jack, I'll do whatever the viewers want. Right,
so I'll get that down in paper. Can we get that? Can you sign some paper that?
if you're watching on YouTube, set a fourth. Like I will literally do anything.
I'm thinking a goal-esque transfer window where we see Mahrez and Vardy go across. You'll have the foreign guy and the English geezer. Maybe
part exchange. Yeah, part exchange. Maybe like we're saying Ronaldo back to the Premier League. Maybe Ronaldo back to the Premier League in exchange for Mahrez and Vardy. Leicester.
They're going to do Goal for the movie, and it's going to be Goal for the movie. It's going to be Vardy and Mahrez's trip to Real Madrid. I can see it now.
It's like the new. What was his name? It was Harris. I forget his first name.
Was it Gavin Harris?
Gavin Harris, yeah.
And then Santiago Munez. Sorry, I'm not a
those two were at Madrid. Well, you never know.
Can we do a quiz on goal next week? I might win that.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe on all 3 goal films.
Not the third one. I don't acknowledge that one's existence.
Wow. Another good win by Leicester. They remain in 5th place, 2 points ahead of Tottenham, 1 point behind United and West Ham. I thought they'd go down. I asked you what teams you thought would go down. Leicester was one of them. Another one of them I thought would go down was West Brom, who got a decent away win at Norwich. Norwich fans are worried that they've not got anywhere near enough firepower. Not only that, but they haven't got enough at the back. And this is what happens, Jack, if you spend a net total of $2 million in the transfer window.
There's worries to have for your team, isn't there? But if one of your worries is lack of goals and the other one is amount of goals conceded, that's more than 2 problems in my eyes. It actually counts as 6.
It's interesting. Alex Neil has dropped Cameron Jerome for Mbakani. He's just made that decision. And I don't know if I agree with it.
I've read a stat somewhere. This might be wrong. I think Mbakani got 4 goals in the last 2 calendar years or something mental.
I think Jake Humphrey tweeted it out. Do you follow Jake Humphrey on Twitter?
I don't know if I do. I don't know who I follow on Twitter.
Brilliant. If you follow by Jack, that's a dig, innit? But yeah, I think Norwich fans are a little bit worried. And if I was now to pick 3 teams to go down, I do feel it would be Bournemouth, Norwich, and Sunderland. I think Sunderland still, but Big Sam, I don't know what he's doing to me. Big Sam makes me think they'll just finish 14th and then no one will talk about it. In the same way that West Brom were kept up by Pulis. I think that could happen again, but with Allardyce. Who knows?
I think the thing that's worth knowing about Norwich is the fact that they only spent £2 million in the summer.
That was like their net total.
And last season, I think they recorded a loss of just a few million.
Well, they're debt-free
that was whilst they were in the Championship. They are a debt-free team. And I think they could go massive in the January window. I think they could snap.
Well, they have to. They absolutely have to. And so one of my Norwich supporting friends actually said that Norwich entered the richest game in the world, right? That being the Premier League, and spent $2 million. I mean, what do they think is going to happen? This is not a shock, and this really falls on McNally, who's the chief exec, who I'm not a big fan of.
Can't wait for them to sign Charlie Austin. I think they're going to sign.
Well, Austin looks likely. I mean, Norwich are the team that should be going for him. Whether Austin wants to move or make the move, you don't know. Maybe he'll be there all year and try and fire QPR back up. But QPR aren't in that race right now of the 6 teams in the Championship, which maybe one week we'll cover. Maybe during the internationals, we should have a look at the league football. I dare say it.
I've not watched the Channel 5 league football show, but I've only heard bad things.
Not many people have. Other results that happened this weekend. Arsenal 2-1. Again, sorry Arsenal fans that we leave you so late. Watford as well, I apologise. 2-0 victors over Stoke. Arsenal though, 2-1 win against Everton. Olivier Giroud got himself a goal. Ross Bartley got 1-2. Who's got the other one for Arsenal? Blimey, this is awful.
Koscielny?
It was Koscielny, thank you very quickly. It was Giroud, Koscielny and then Bartley just before half-time. Do we think Arsenal can be proper contenders? We kind of go over this every week, right?
Are they top of the league now? Actually, no, they're behind City on goal difference, but they were top on the Saturday night.
I think, Jack, that Arsenal have got a real chance.
Don't say you're cursing it now. You've jinxed it.
I'm saying it very quietly because I don't want Arsenal fans to get hypeable. But I think Arsenal are certainly in the race.
I'll tell you what, Ozil's come into form. You talked a number of weeks ago now about how if Chelsea want to get out of their slump, they need Hazard to perform, and he hasn't. Ozil is like the man at the moment who is kind of putting the entire Arsenal team on his back, and I don't want to say he's carrying them, but he's certainly taking a lot of the load going forward.
Well, I talked about this last week that I thought I got very annoyed with Wenger, you might remember, and I said, look, Wenger, you are screwing Arsenal by not playing a system that actually suits the players that you have. This sort of tiki-taka style that he wants to try and implement. He wants to be this possession-based team. It wants to play pretty football effectively and win the league doing so.
Yeah.
What he's actually done is go a little bit more direct, and he's using the players to their max ability because of where he's playing them. Players like Oxlade-Chamberlain, Walcott, Sanchez, they are rapid. However you want to look at it, they are some of the quickest players in the league. And what that actually does is because of the amount of pressure those players put on a back line, or at least like sort of mentally, their defenders are thinking, bloody hell, these guys are quick.
Yeah.
You almost forget Mesut Ozil's on the pitch. So and Mesut Ozil is fantastic at exploiting space if you give it to him. It's one of his key things. And as you say, he's been putting in some fantastic performances recently. Comes under a lot of criticism. I'm one of those main people that says that if Arsenal aren't playing well, get him off your pitch. But if you're playing well, as Arsenal are right now, he is very good. And I think you tend to agree with that.
Yeah, I do. And it's also worth noting Gareth Barry did get sent off. I mean, at
the end,
he did.
I felt sorry for him, actually.
I never really get when players get sent off like in the 93rd minute.
Well, it was just, I think they were trying to win the ball back. They were trying to get one more chance, and he knew straight away. He did the classic, I know, and just walked off.
The other thing that's worth noting, Jagielka went off with an injury. I think he's out for 9 weeks, so that's a big miss for Everton.
Well, they're going to play Mori, I assume, then, with John Stones.
Well, he's got to put, I guess he's got to prove his value now, hasn't he? Because he came in for a decent chunk of cash. There was a few question marks. I have an Argentine chap who follows me on Twitter. I can't remember his name.
Do you?
I do.
Is it Diego Maradona? That would be brilliant.
I wish it was. But
then again, you don't know who follows you on Twitter.
He's a massive River fan, and he was basically telling me that Funes Mori, he was surprised he'd gone to the Premier League.
Well, someone... dearie me, that's challenging. But somebody, a journalist who's very up on South American football...
Does he follow you on Twitter?
No, he doesn't, but he's very well known. Someone will know who it is. I'm so sorry I don't have his name to hand.
Outrageous.
Oh, I can't remember his name. Anyway, he agreed with that, essentially. I think it's Tim Vickery, maybe. South American correspondent for the BBC.
Either way, it's going to be an interesting one to see how it pans out now, because I can't think who else they've got at centre-back.
Vickery. Well, this Stan's no longer there, is he?
No, he's gone. So I guess Mori is that kind of second choice.
It is. Tim Vickery was very surprised. He's the South American football correspondent for the BBC. Was very surprised that Everton had spent money on Mori. But actually, I think he's done okay so far this season. I'd just like to point out, Jack, I know we've not really touched on Watford's very impressive victory.
Troy Deeney scored.
Is that his first goal of the season?
It is.
Well done to Troy Deeney. I just want to point out now to every single football fan that listens to For The Fans who potentially thinks that we are of a biased nature. There is one game we are yet to cover so far this weekend. That game is Liverpool 1, Southampton 1. Jurgen Klopp saw the Kop live, Jack, for his second time, technically, because he saw it against Ruben. But yeah, Benteke scored a really good header, and I was really pleased.
I've erased this match from my memory, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, I'll run you through it. James Milner put in a fantastic cross. Christian Benteke, second half substitution. Headers in. One of the best headers seen at Anfield since Grant Holtz against Liverpool, at the Kop end. Really good header. At that point, you think, oh, it works. This whole thing works. And then defending becomes sort of less important, and Mane scored from a yard out. And it wasn't really James Milner's fault. It was the fact we allow that to happen in the first place.
It actually reminded me of the goal that Liverpool scored against Rubin Kazan at the same end. But it's like a cross that goes to the back post, from a set piece. It just gets nodded across, and there's no one tracking the guy where you don't expect the ball to be, and the ball goes there.
It's true. It's just sort of bundled in. Mignolet's doing his best. Milner's there. It's just, it's a shame.
That was Southampton 1. Southampton 1.
It was. Everyone was getting very upset with that. We'll talk about Liverpool, not this week, but we'll talk about them another week. There are a few players in this Liverpool team that don't fit very well, and it'll actually be players that people don't expect me to say.
Well, it's interesting you should mention that, because someone on Twitter,
go on.
Mr. Trotman, asked, do you think Sturridge fits Klopp's long-term fans?
Okay, well, shall we move to the questions now? I feel
like you've tied that in beautifully. I'm sorry to Watford fans. Deeney with a goal, fantastic. But let's go to some questions, because we've got rid of Keno now, so I've taken the reins. I'm running this joint now.
Are you gonna pose questions towards me?
Well, I was going to.
I feel like I sort of.
So do you think Sturridge fits? Obviously, you were mentioning players you were worried a bit about, and you said there were a few that you weren't expecting people to expect. Who are those players?
Okay, we'll start with Sturridge then, shall we? Sturridge is. It's very easy to talk about Sturridge when you haven't seen him play for Klopp yet. So to say he doesn't fit in, how do you know? It's essentially what I'm trying to get at. He is Liverpool's best goal-scoring threat. Of course, Benteke cost a lot of money. He's done it for Villa, but we're yet to really see Benteke hit the ground properly running and score a hatful of goals. Sturridge is Liverpool's best striker. It's not even that close if Sturridge is fit. Balotelli, well, that'll be interesting, won't it? He sort of has to fit and be given the chance because of how good he is. Now, we will see in the next few weeks and months, depending on if he's fit, I guess, really, if he fits in. What doesn't fit in is an injury-prone Daniel Sturridge, because if he can't use him, Klopp often talks about this, if he's not available, why waste time talking about him? And Sturridge is in a big danger of becoming the forgotten man of Klopp's reign. Someone else I don't think fits in. Is that what you asked me?
Yeah.
Other players that don't fit in?
Well, it was more about Sturridge specifically, but obviously you wanted to talk about more players, so go for it.
Yeah, I'll try and keep it relatively brief. But you did ask viewers, so I'm now talking about Liverpool. Philippe Coutinho is coming under a lot of criticism for not fitting into Jurgen Klopp's style of play. He's not having an impact on games yet. And weirdly enough, I think he'll come good. I think eventually he will suit Jurgen Klopp's style of play when he's got enough quick players around him to give him a little bit more space. A player that I don't think fits very well, but has been playing arguably the best for Jurgen Klopp so far is... Who do you think it is?
I'm going to say Lucas.
No, it's Adam Lallana.
Oh, okay.
Who's been playing very well. He gets in between the lines, but his actual style of play and pressing doesn't, long term, in my opinion at least, suit the Jurgen Klopp style of play, because he's not quick enough. When he gets the ball, he holds it up, he dribbles backwards, he goes another way. He's very good at doing intricate little turns and make you go, oh, that was a nice little turn intricately. But actually, his final product and the end of whatever he's doing is never the sort of thing that makes me go, wow, he's one of the best players in our team. It's always like, that's really nice, Adam, but I wish you'd do something with a little bit more substance. And he's one player that I think so far in this reign has done very well, but actually I don't think long term he fits the system that Jurgen Klopp wants to implement. You think about the players and the problem with Liverpool's team right now is you think about the players at Dortmund, right? You had Blaszczykowski on one side, you had when Dortmund were in their absolute pomp. And Liverpool are nowhere near that, let me clarify right now. If anyone expects Liverpool to be that right now...
But we're going to sign Royce and Hummels and win the league.
Well, if we sign a player like Royce, things change. But he had Royce one side, Blaszczykowski the other, Goetze sitting behind Lewandowski. And the pace that Royce, Goetze wasn't that quick, but he similar to Coutinho, he's quick, but you don't think of him as a pacey player. Blaszczykowski and Royce, two of the quickest players in the Bundesliga. And right now, sort of anchoring next to Lallana or Coutinho, whoever's in the middle, is sort of a mishmash of Coutinho and James Milner. And again, they're not like rapid players, but I mean, they're not slow players, but they're not what Klopp needs to get this pressing game really working. And it's strange to me that Jordan Ibe hasn't featured more, and I think we actually might see that in a few weeks' time. We'll see a little bit more of Ibe, because I think he does change the game a little bit, because he gives other players more space. Anyway, sorry, I spent way too long on that question.
I was going to go into that question even more, if you don't mind, but take a slightly different opinion.
I'll sit back.
So, for me, when a manager comes to a club, his job, imagine a football team, as in on the team sheet, it's like a machine, and you're given a certain amount of parts to make the most optimal machine you can. And yet the machine that you make isn't the one that's guaranteed to win games. You just got to raise the percentage and that chance of you winning by the way you sort your team. I think given the fact Klopp hasn't got players to sign at this moment in time until at least January, I think there's going to be a degree of him basically making a compromise from what he wants to make and kind of what is going to best suit the players that Liverpool have right now.
Ironically, Brendan Rodgers had to do that
and
as well.
I don't know if we're going to see this 4-3-2-1, which is kind of what it's been. I see it evolving into maybe a 4-2-3-1. I just think at the moment a lot of people are looking at the Liverpool side and going, What did you just say then? A 4-2-3-1.
But what was the first formation?
Well, like a 4-3... sorry, I didn't explain that very well. When I say... I meant a 4-2-3-1 and then a 4-3. I'm broken.
I think you said the same formation twice.
Basically, the bottom line is, I'm thinking, centre attacking mid with two guys either side is what we're going to eventually get to, rather than this kind of three midfielders, two centre attacking mids who kind of float around and then a striker. I think there comes a point where Klopp has to compromise, and I think there's a lot of this talk about how Klopp is going to try and mould Liverpool into basically his Dortmund side, and that's kind of not what I want to see, if I'm honest. I want to see him... I want to see Klopp make what he can of the Liverpool team, based off what we've got now, rather than what we need to get to where everyone seems to think that Liverpool need to go. Does that make any sense?
Yes, I get you. Basically, you're saying you'd like to see Klopp adapt Liverpool to how
a way that makes Liverpool play well.
Yeah,
rather
okay.
than kind of going, right, we're going to play how my Dortmund team that played well played, and you will do this job, etc.
Yeah, do another question. I feel like we spent way too long.
Sorry, we have.
We left it till the end.
We said, we left it till the end. We've psyched people out there.
People going, great.
Someone said, who would you like to see come in as Villa manager? Now, Keno isn't here, but who I'd like to see would be Steve Evans. I don't know who you want.
Yeah, I would like Michael Laudrup, but it's not happening. They're getting Remy Gard, former Lyon boss. Another question.
How many goals is Kane going to score against Villa next week from Bratton?
Well, I've put him in as my fantasy captain.
So you're thinking, 6 or 7?
I was thinking more than that, mate. I think he might hit his 15 target.
I feel like while Keno's not here, we can get like a season's worth of bitching about Villa out of our system.
Well, they're just not very good, are they? They've bought players that don't actually really suit the way Villa need to play to get them out of this mess, and we'll find out. Keno won't have listened this far, so we know we can sort of say whatever we like. Carry on.
Ben Dunn, do you think Jose Mourinho will be sacked or just resign if results don't improve?
I don't think he'll be sacked because he gets loads of money.
I can't see him walking away.
No, he'll get loads of money if he stays. So he's just getting he's getting fined a lot.
You know
but
how
then
he's been sent to the stands and he's got his stadium ban as well? Like, what's next? Will they give him...
He's got a stadium ban?
He's got a one-match stadium ban, hasn't he, for his comments he said about the officials in that game where he basically implied that everyone was against Chelsea.
Where's he not? Is it the next game?
I don't know when it is. I think that's gone through. I assume it didn't get appealed and revoked. But either way, like, he's treading quite a thin line with the FA now and obviously sent to the stands. Like, what's the next thing?
If it's one game, I don't know if it counts as like any game, but they play Stoke next. But then obviously the next Premier League game is against Liverpool next weekend.
I think that's the thing. So I may have made... No, I've definitely not made up. He definitely has got a stadium ban.
Do you know what? I bet Mourinho doesn't go to... Okay, I'm saying now, this is my bold prediction of the week. Mourinho will get a stadium ban. I don't know if he's got that, by the way. I don't know if he just made that up.
I'm going to check.
If he has got one, he won't have to... he won't go to the game and Chelsea will win 4-0 in a game that Jose Mourinho doesn't attend. There you are. Any more questions? I'll read them out while you do that.
That's fine.
Will Jamie Vardy be able to keep up his goal-scoring form for the entire season? I mean, nothing suggests he can't. So let's see if he carries on. How much longer can West Ham and Leicester keep it going for? That kind of ties into the Vardy question. We spoke about West Ham quite a lot earlier. Mr. Joe Moon, I think he can go on a little while longer. There will come a point though where the squads of the elite sides will take back over sort of the mantle of that top four, but we'll have to wait and see. I mean, let's not rule them out quite yet.
Definitely has happened. I didn't make it up. Okay,
Matthew, 10 games in, how do you evaluate Norwich, Bournemouth, Watford squads? Have your views changed about their chances of survival? I didn't think any of them would go down. I think I did like a prediction video and none of them were going to go down. I think we've both said we now think that Bournemouth and Norwich are in a little bit of a problem. I feel like we should give
one-word descriptions for each team.
I'll go on then.
So for Watford, I'll go with promising.
I'd go with surprising.
For Bournemouth, I'll go with unlucky because of all the injuries.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, actually.
Norwich, I'm going to go with thucked.
I'm going to go explicit because of what you've just done there. No, I think Norwich is topsy-turvy.
I'm very worried for Norwich at this point.
Yeah,
I said that I thought they might stay up ahead of Newcastle. The more I think about it, the more I'm like, I saw that game against West Brom.
Also, a few of the other questions that have come in, Archie, Charlie, Callum, a few others that have entered into the equation. I feel like we've answered.
We've had a lot of questions this week. This might be a new personal record.
From our Twitch. Thank you. If you ever left a question, thank you very much at ForTheFans Show on Twitter. Of course, we're on YouTube, youtube.com/ForTheFans Show. And Jack, I think that almost very much brings us to the end. As I mentioned at the start of the show, if you want to leave a review, 5-star it, but say whatever you want. We'll read the best ones out next week. So from me, Dr. Benji, and from Jack.
The guy doesn't know the obstruction rule.
Brilliant. I cannot wait to read the comments on YouTube.
That's going to be excellent.
We love with care from me, Dr. Benji. Until next time, goodbye.